Surrender, the suspected railroad serial killer, turns himself in and comes off the FBI's most wanted list. The real story of how his own family helped. Extreme weather, heat, rain, floods, drought, the truth about the brutal conditions, why they'll continue through the year 2000. Lifeline, a new spray that could protect millions from the dangers of flu. Will it work for your family? And In Depth, No Way Out, the South Pole at 90 below, an American doctor with a life and death case treating herself for breast cancer.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw. Substituting tonight, Brian Williams.
Good evening. While there is great relief every time the FBI announces that a suspect has been taken off the 10 most wanted list, today was different. That's because American families, especially those who live near railroad tracks in this country from the West Coast to the East, have been living in fear ever since first word that a serial killer was loose and traveling by rail. That is, until earlier today, when a man known as Rafael Resendez Ramirez surrendered to police after his family conspired to get him to give up. Our coverage begins tonight with NBC News Justice correspondent Pete Williams.
The month-long national manhunt ends peacefully this morning as the man known as Rafael Resendez Ramirez simply gives himself up. From Mexico, he crosses a bridge over the Rio Grande to El Paso along with his brother and walks up to a waiting Texas Ranger.
He was extended his hand, they shook hands, and he handcuffed him, said he was very pleasant, not aggressive.
A quick check comparing his fingerprints to those already on U.S. immigration computers confirms it's Ramirez. In a brief court appearance, he says little, agreeing to talk to the judge in English or Spanish.
Sí. Yes. Whatever.
His surrender comes after 3 days of negotiations with a sister who lives in New Mexico and the brother who was with him today. Authorities say his family was apparently worried Ramirez could be shot by those searching for him, and they wanted to be sure he'd get psychological counseling. But Texas officials insist they made no legal deals and did not promise to shield him from the death penalty. Instead, state and federal authorities think Ramirez simply got tired of running, often apparently riding the rails to elude an intense manhunt.
And when you leave no place to turn, then maybe the alternative was what we asked for last week. In a plea, maybe you ought to turn yourself in.
The only federal charges against Ramirez for evading arrest have been withdrawn tonight, so now his prosecution is up to authorities in 3 states. Authorities suspect he may be responsible for 8 brutal murders, 5 of them in Texas since last December. Illinois police have charged him with shooting a 79-year-old man and beating the man's daughter to death a month ago. And Kentucky officials have charged Ramirez with murdering a college student 2 years ago. Police there today say they're relieved.
And I was worried if he laid down for a while that we wouldn't know who he was. He could hide, and then it'd take how many more bodies before we got to this level again.
Relief shared around the country tonight with Rafael Ramirez now off the 10 most wanted list and in a Texas jail. Pete Williams, NBC News, Washington.
This is George Lewis in El Paso. When Rafael Resendez Ramirez walked across the border here this morning, he gave up the chance to avoid the death penalty. He'll be tried in Houston, Harris County, which sends more people to Texas death row every year than most states. 56 Harris County convicts executed since Texas resumed the death penalty in 1976. Ramirez has a common-law wife who lives in Durango, Mexico. Had he turned himself into Mexican authorities there, he could have avoided possible execution.
Mexico is not known for allowing the extradition of its citizens to a state that has a death penalty. So if he had turned himself in Mexico, then it's very likely the Mexican government would negotiate with the U.S. government whereby they would agree not to seek the death penalty.
Some legal analysts believe that in asking for psychiatric counseling upon his surrender, Resendez Ramirez may have been setting himself up for a possible insanity defense.
That could serve as a precursor to a defense in the penalty phase that would mitigate the death penalty down to life without possibility of parole. So it's a very important concession possibly made by the Americans.
Some legal experts say Ramirez may have thought capture was inevitable, either by law enforcement agencies on both sides of the border or by bounty hunters. Resendez Ramirez is wanted for murder in Texas, Illinois, and Kentucky, and he'll likely be tried on the Texas charges first. The betting here is that a death penalty conviction is almost a certainty. George Lewis, NBC News, El Paso, Texas.
Many Americans remember the first pictures from the Everglades 3 years ago, right after the ValuJet DC-9 went down, killing everybody on board. It soon became clear there had been smoke in the cabin, fire in the cargo hold. Today, federal and state prosecutors made it clear they want someone to pay for what happened to those innocent passengers. They are looking at a murder charge. Our report from Miami and NBC's Kerry Sanders.
Federal aviation investigators say they have long known why the ValuJet DC-9 crashed, a fire like this one in the cargo hold. Today, Florida prosecutors did what has never happened before, holding a company criminally responsible for a crash. Officials charging SaberTech, the subcontractor allegedly responsible for putting hazardous materials on the plane, with felony murder and manslaughter.
This crash was completely preventable. It was not an accident like many other crashes are. It was a crime.
In a 221-page indictment that includes color photographs of the accident scene, Florida prosecutors write there is no requirement to prove the deaths were intended or premeditated. A federal indictment also unsealed today, charging SaberTech and 3 employees with conspiracy, putting short-term business interests ahead of other concerns, including safety. Kathleen Kessler was among the 110 killed in the crash. To her husband, this was never an accident.
Still, it's only an indictment. This is not a conviction, and that's a whole process, and the defendants in this case are entitled to due process. Our loved ones weren't given due process.
SaberTech's attorney today saying the crash was an accident, not a crime.
Rest assured, we are not going to take the fall for the federal government, which is itself to blame for a major portion of this tragedy.
The question now, will holding company executives and employees criminally responsible send a message to other airlines and contractors so something like this never happens again? Kerry Sanders, NBC News, Miami.
Now to Washington this evening, where tonight the nation's top forecasters are predicting more weather extremes like the kind that have already brought the nation a drought, severe flooding, and a monster heat wave. Here with that, NBC's Robert Hager.
At Susie Stoutenberg's beach shop on North Carolina's Outer Banks, word of the new forecast raises fears of hurricane trouble.
Of course, you have to close, therefore you have loss of income. Last year we were closed for 4 days, but it really affects business for about a week to 2 weeks.
In Georgia, could mean a return to drought for Terrell Hudson's rain-starved farm fields.
There are fields around here that are dry land that if it doesn't come, it's going to be a wipeout.
All this because today the Weather Service said the condition known as La Nina, the massive cooling of water in the Pacific that's upset the weather for more than a year now, is not leaving soon. Instead will remain a powerful influence into the start of the year 2000. That from Ans Liedtma, one of the government's premier long-range forecasters.
We can say that, in fact, the La Nina is going to come back and be fairly strong and have a big impact on U.S. weather this coming fall and winter.
One piece of good news, the rest of this summer should be normal. Periodic rain, no return of blistering heat wave after heat wave. But by late summer, La Nina's effects kick in, and watch out for hurricanes.
All the signs of an active hurricane season are there.
And for the autumn and winter, a return to dry in the South and Mid-Atlantic could threaten drought again, while the Northwest could be the opposite, in for a stormy winter, and the Midwest bitter cold.
Well, I think they should probably take out their fur coats.
Remember that record snow in Chicago last January? Could be more this winter, and more rain and floods like last year in the state of Washington. Extremes from the dry soil Terrell Hudson tills to the storm threat Susie Stoutenberg faces.
I have my flood insurance paid up, and I hope it gives me enough money to get a start over in case we do have damage.
Blame it on the huge La Nina, a damaging weather system that just won't go away. Robert Hager, NBC News, Washington.
As we continue this Tuesday evening, No Way Out. NBC News in depth, a woman trapped tonight at the South Pole, the most remote and unforgiving place on Earth. She's afraid she might have breast cancer.
This is a frightening situation for any woman, even under the best of circumstances.
Desperate measures underway to help her and why she might have to be her own doctor. That is tonight's In Depth. And a remarkable journey, a great-great-grandmother walking across America on a crusade against politics as usual.
Dateline Tuesday tonight.
NBC News in depth tonight. At the bottom of the earth, quite literally, a life and death drama being played out right now in the South Pole, where the temperature today was pretty typical, about 76 degrees below zero. It is dark all day. The sun went down in March, won't be up again until September. Tonight in Antarctica, a woman at a research station there needs urgent medical attention. NBC's Ann Thompson begins our in-depth reporting.
On a flat expanse of snow and ice at the bottom of the world, the coldest place on Earth, a 47-year-old woman faces a test of survival, the discovery of a lump in her breast.
This is a frightening situation for any woman, even under the best of circumstances. The circumstances involved here make this woman's discovery all the more traumatic.
The woman lives and works at the Amundsen-Scott South Pole Station, isolated with 40 others. The woman's name not revealed. For privacy reasons, the National Science Foundation will not release it.
I'm really going to concede to her wishes. She would like her privacy maintained.
According to today's New York Times, the woman with the lump is also the only doctor at the South Pole, and she'll have to treat herself in a place that is so cold rescue planes can't land to bring her out. So this weekend, a desperate airdrop. An Air Force crew packed 6 bundles of medical supplies and pushed them out of a plane. A precision operation. Those on the ground at the South Pole had less than 10 minutes to get the supplies or they would freeze. Today, news the ultrasound machine used in biopsies and to measure tumors was damaged during the drop. But medicines, diagnostic tools, and video teleconferencing equipment made it.
We expect to have the new high-quality video link up and running momentarily so that she can use that to consult with her physician stateside. And I think that interaction will take place almost as though she was in their office.
The first step for the woman, the biopsy, sticking a needle in her own lump to get a tissue sample.
It's something that is completely out of the ordinary, but she is in an extraordinary situation.
Then she must place the cells on slides and stain them to see if there is cancer. A digital microscope, airdropped, will transmit the images via satellite to an expert in the States. If cancerous, she could start chemotherapy or hormonal therapy.
There is no difference in those patients who had the chemotherapy first as opposed to their surgery first, so their overall survival should be the same.
The biggest risk if she begins chemo, infection living in close quarters. 10 women, 31 men under a windproof dome just 164 feet wide, the only living creatures on the South Pole. A test of survival that will last until the 3rd week in October. Ann Thompson, NBC News, Chicago.
Now, why would anyone volunteer to live in a place where the nearest neighbors are almost 1,000 miles away, where you can't even go outside without risking almost instant frostbite? Dr. Robert Hogan of the University of Tulsa has studied the people who live and work at the South Pole. Tonight, Dr. Hogan in his own words.
The kind of people who are best suited to work in these conditions are people who are extremely introverted, who need no social contact or stimulation, who have no need for just general excitement, enthusiasm in their lives. They don't need to jump out of planes or go scuba diving, and are perfectly content to sit and pay very close attention to the task at hand. And that's important because there's literally nothing else to do. There's no opportunity to go for a walk or watch the sun go down. It's just a very bleak, dark, cold, inhospitable environment that's boring. In the piece of research we did regarding successful wintering over in the Antarctic, the sorts of problems that occurred primarily involved drinking too much, fooling around, sexual harassment. These occurred because people were essentially bored. I think if someone were in that location and discovered incipient illness of virtually any kind, it could be very, very stressful. People need a sense of predictability and control in their lives, and right now she doesn't have any.
Dr. Robert Hogan of the University of Tulsa tonight in his own words. Still ahead as we continue, Lifeline. It's easy, it's painless, but can it really protect from the flu next winter? Important health news tonight when we come back. Tonight in Tehran and other parts of the nation of Iran, the biggest protests in a generation there. Students took to the streets for the 6th straight day demonstrating for democracy and against Islamic hardliners. Some of the protests have turned violent in the past 2 days, leaving 5 dead. Today, Iran's moderate president warned that demonstrations threaten progress toward reform there. Now to Lifeline. It's an annual ritual for millions of people going to the doctor for a flu shot. But influenza still makes 1 in 5 Americans miserably sick every year, in part because millions refuse to get those shots. Now there's a new weapon against the flu that's a lot easier to take, we're told. Here's NBC's chief science correspondent, Robert Bazell.
It's called Flu Mist, actually a nasal spray that prevents infection with no pain, no needles.
It eliminates a major barrier, and that is the fear of needles. Turns out that about 15 to 20% of the population is afraid of needles.
That's why millions of Americans do not get the annual flu shots now available, putting themselves and others at risk when flu season strikes. Today's study looked at more than 4,500 healthy working adults. 2/3 got the nasal spray vaccine, 1/3 a placebo or water spray. When flu season hit, those with a vaccine did much better. Almost 19% fewer high fevers, almost 21% fewer missed days of work, and almost 25% fewer doctor's visits.
This new vaccine, when it's licensed for use, will offer another option for healthy adults.
The FDA will likely approve Flu Mist in about a year and a half. Like the current flu shots, a new spray will be needed every year to prevent new strains.
One big hope? Flu Mist could be used to vaccinate children, who seldom get flu shots now, but often play a major role in spreading the virus to adults and the entire community.
To find out how effective vaccinating kids can be, scientists have turned the entire town of Temple, Texas, into a laboratory. They plan to give Flu Mist to almost all the 18,000 children between 18 months and 18 years old. Hannah, Jacqueline, and Nicholas Lamar got their vaccinations last August.
We had no flu season this year. I mean, nothing. I wasn't sick, my husband wasn't sick, the kids weren't sick.
The company that makes Flu Mist says it will cost somewhat more than the $10 to $15 for flu shots, but it still could be an inexpensive, painless weapon against a killer epidemic. Robert Bazell, NBC News, New York.
There's also word tonight of what actually might be the first effective treatment for the common cold. The company that makes a new antiviral pill says preliminary early studies show the drug shortens the duration of bad colds, the kind that hang on for several weeks. Cold sufferers who took the drug, we're told, got better an average of 3 days faster. But researchers caution more studies are needed to prove the drug's effectiveness. A mostly down day to report to you from Wall Street this Tuesday. The Dow sank nearly 26 amid concern over Latin American economies. NASDAQ also down over 12, but 3 of the top 5 technology stocks were up at the end of the day. When we come back here tonight, what it means to walk in one grandmother's shoes.
Profit from it.
Like a lot of political issues in America, everybody wants to be angry at it. Few are willing to actually do something about it. The result is gridlock in Washington, but a spectacular sight along a stretch of road tonight just east of Dallas, Texas. 89-year-old Doris Haddock of Dublin, New Hampshire feels so strongly about campaign finance reform, she's walking across the country on a mission. She's reached the halfway point in her walk, but not in her cause. Here's NBC's Bob Dotson.
When Doris Haddock set out last January, she called AAA to map a coast-to-coast route without too many mountains. Not because her car couldn't make it. This great-great-grandmother is walking. She's 89 years old and so far has hiked 1,500 miles.
I think she's an incredible woman.
Haddock downplays what she's doing.
Really? Yes, you are.
You put one foot in front of the other.
No.
Never mind that she has arthritis in her feet. Forget that she has emphysema.
50 years of smoking a pack a day, and now you're walking 10 miles a day. Come on, that's pretty good.
Especially for a retired secretary who admits she didn't exercise much before.
Thank you. I don't know why I can walk so far when I can't get up and get down.
She set out to publicize a lifelong concern.
Hey, how are you?
Telling whomever will listen about what she calls the single most important issue facing our nation. Corporate money going to political parties.
That's not government of the people, by the people, and for the people. It's not. And it has to be stopped.
$264 million in the last presidential campaign alone. Where does Haddock get her money for this trek? She relies on the strangers she meets for food and shelter.
So I never had to sleep on the ground. although I was prepared to do it.
After her children first suggested she might consider a nursing home. Instead, she set out to tackle one last great adventure.
So far, she's worn out 2 pairs of shoes, lost 20 pounds, but the only major setback, 4 days in the hospital suffering from dehydration after crossing the Mojave Desert.
She's doing about 24 minutes a mile.
And getting stronger. If Doris Haddock can hold up, she will walk 3,000 miles through 220 cities for 330 days, trudging into the nation's capital on January 24th, her 90th birthday.
High fives.
Bob Dodson, NBC News, Dallas.
And that is Nightly News for this Tuesday. Don't forget Dateline NBC tonight at 10. I hope to see you later this evening for the news on MSNBC on cable at 9, again on CNBC each evening at 10 o'clock. I'm Brian Williams reporting tonight from New York. Tom Brokaw will be back with you here tomorrow evening. Good night, everybody.
Nightly News is a presentation of NBC News. More Americans watch NBC News than any other news organization in the world.